You're the average of the top 5 people you spend your time. And I take that as such a compliment because some of the closest people in my life are librarians, social workers, teachers, and I mean, they're doing the work. They're doing the frontline work of supporting students, changing lives, like being in community. And
welcome to Real Talk with Real Leaders, inspiration for radical freedom dreamers, a space where we uplift powerful voices, discover deep wisdom, and spark the courage needed to lead in today's sea of uncertainty. Together, we'll reimagine what's possible, one conversation at a time. I'm your host, Dr. Tracey Samone, Queen of Clarity and Care, and your go-to strategist, facilitator, and coach, helping social impact leaders and organizations get unstuck and get things done. Today, we have a fabulous leader lined up, but first, let's anchor down in the Anchor Way. The Anchor Way is a leadership framework designed to help leaders move forward with clarity, connection, cohesion, care, and courage, even in turbulent waters. Let's take a closer look. Think about leadership like a boat. To move through uncertain waters, it needs to be well-built, well-guided, and well-powered. Every boat is built from something. At the foundation of effective leadership are 3 essential materials. Clarity, a grounded understanding of where you're headed and why it matters. Connection, the ability to build trust, communicate honestly, and stay rooted in relationships. And cohesion, the alignment between your values, your vision, and your daily decisions. This is what effective leadership is built on. Without it, the structure is fragile, no matter how bold your vision or how skilled your team. Aboard every boat are essentials for the journey to help you set direction, carry the work, and guide your people. The first is the compass, your direction. It represents your vision, your priorities, and your sense of purpose. It helps you stay oriented even when conditions around you are shifting. Next is the cargo, the actual work you're responsible for carrying, the programs you run, the commitments you hold, the culture that you're shaping. These are the things you're building, protecting, or transforming through your leadership. Then there's the crew, the people you lead and journey with, your peers, your partners, your team. They depend on you for clarity, direction, and care. And you depend on them to carry the mission forward. Leadership means resourcing and aligning your crew so that you can move forward together. Below the surface, every organization is influenced by the current. These are the external forces like policy shifts, funding pressures, or community needs that shape your course whether you like it or not. You can't control the current, but you can learn how to navigate it. And what propels the boat forward are 2 internal forces, care and courage. Care is how you lead with humanity. Courage is how you make hard decisions with integrity. Both are necessary to move through resistance and build something real. Every interview in this series is grounded in one or more parts of the Anchor Way because we believe leadership is not just about vision. It's about structure, systems, and soul. Welcome back, leaders. I'm so excited that we have Joan here with us today. We're going to be talking about crew. Joan and I had the pleasure of working together. I don't know, Joan. It's like, has it been 2 years ago? Has it been that long? Joan is just an amazing human being. I just really enjoyed knowing her, being with her, sharing space with her, talking to her. And I'm super excited to learn today more about her and her crew and how she gets amazing work done with her crew. But before we do that, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. Tell the people a little bit about you. You can tell them professional, personal, whatever feels good to you.
thank you. Hi, y'all. I'm Joan Jungbin Lee. I use she and they pronouns. Professionally, I am currently the Associate Director of Programs at Trubel Co. We're a tech nonprofit that teaches young people and community members how to use maps and geospatial analysis to not only understand their current community, but also move towards environmental and civic action. I am a community member in New Orleans. I'm originally from New York City, but I've been living in New Orleans for almost a decade now, which is wild. And I have been working in education nonprofit spaces for the last decade or so. I The primary way that I identify myself is mainly as a community member, just in general, whether it's, and I see myself as a leader, in certain spaces where I step up and step back, but in general, I really love that like fluidity of leadership. In some spaces, my Virgo eldest daughter energy comes up, and sometimes I'm very happy to take a step back and let other folks lead. Um, Mainly because other folks might have the more expertise, but also it helps me learn from other leadership styles. So, um, yeah, community member is how I mainly identify myself. I'm very uh, excited to be here today and deep dive into more about crew and who makes our teams and who's got our backs.
I love that. I love that. First of all, I did not know you were a Virgo and an eldest daughter. That is a magical combination.
Yes, magical is one way to put it. A little neurotic sometimes, but that's between me and my therapist and to work through. But yes, I there's a lot of boss and bossiness in it for me. Yes.
Sounds about right for a Virgo and an eldest daughter. It sounds about,
Yep.
but I don't get that from you. I don't remember getting that from you. I always feel you as like very soft and very kind and very like flexible and open.
Mhm. Oh, that's a lot of therapy and a lot of people in my own personal community. I think also leaving space for me to step back from having to lead all the time. I am a very proud daughter of immigrants, and I think there are some real immigrant challenges of, translating when you're young, being not even so I know a lot of children of immigrants are parentified as young as children, but adultified is like a slightly different version of that I felt where a lot of my peers, translated in documents, would like talk on the phone, talking about taxes when we were, like 12 and had no idea what taxes were and things like that. So there are ways in which I'm great at like driving certain questions and being like, y'all, we have to get this done. We have no time. I have other things to do.
Mhm.
But I've been very lucky that a lot of people in my life have been like, if you don't take a break, your body will pick a break for you. So I've been practicing stepping back and being softer because we all deserve to be a little bit softer, especially now. Give ourselves some time and space to rest.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It sounds like, that's actually the perfect segue because it sounds like what you're embodying is like this balance between like when I have to be the boss and when I can step back and let people take care of me. And it sounds like your crew is a key piece of
Mhm.
helping you find that balance. Can you talk a little bit about, so in the Anchor Way framework, we define crew as the people you lead with or are supported by. So when it
Mhm.
comes to your crew, like when you hear the word crew, what comes to mind for you?
I have like very particular faces that come to mind, but I think that like balance that you're talking about of like both leading but also being supported by are like two in the same, just like opposite sides of the same coin. Because, if in a professional sense, when you hire folks that work underneath, like, or like in a hierarchy work underneath you, they're supporting the work that you do. And maybe you set the vision or set the scope of work, and then they support in creating that. But without them, it would just be like, the heading. There's no content under the heading type of situation. And so um, I love working with other people. I think that I'm a lot more extroverted than I think I am, at least in work. Um, and I Professionally, I'm very lucky that, like in our current group at Trubel Co, we have a pretty small team, but we have a lot of volunteers and a lot of part-time facilitators who step up and step back based on their own capacity. I'm probably going to lean a little bit more into my personal life when talking about crew. Um, but overwhelmingly, the women and like genderqueer people in my life have really stepped up, especially in the last almost decade or so. I would say the last couple of presidencies, especially, I felt very supported by, especially a lot of the women in my life who have taught me a lot about whether it's social issues, so like friends who are very specifically experts in healthcare or specifically experts in, immigration justice. And they lead me in terms of informing me about all of the work and small action items I can take. And then the flip side is also true, where I'm like, okay, this is what we're doing in education. Like, here's a small action item you can take. Call your representative. Here's a short script. And I think that everyone is really busy deep diving and caring about what they're really good at or what they really deeply care about. And having a community of people who really deeply care about their individual thing is so honestly entertaining and fun for me because I'm like, oh, I don't actually have to like read all of that literature. You'll digest it and share it with me because that's what you love to do. So I felt very supported by a lot of the women in my life. And obviously, they're all like getting their PhDs and being lawyers and being teachers. And it's like, it's truly one of the largest blessings I've had in my life of having um, people in my life who care very deeply. And sometimes we talk about that as if it's luck, but it's also like a lot of effort that we put in, like as individuals, like you're what is the phrase? Like you're the average of the top five people you spend your time with. And I take that as such a compliment because some of the closest people in my life are librarians, social workers, teachers, and I mean, they're doing the work. They're doing the frontline work of supporting students, changing lives, like being in community. And I can gush about my friends and the folks in my network all the time, but um, being led by and being supported by people who do work that are meaningful, um, I think also like keeps my like boat afloat of being like, okay, I'm not doing this alone. There's so many different facets of justice and of work that needs to be done. And look at all of these people doing their own independent thing to make sure that we get there. Whether it's like the immediate harm reduction of students still need to learn to read today, like people still need food to eat today, but then also it's a long-term work of what are the policy changes that need to be done? What kind of pedagogy can we implement at a large scale to ensure that students are learning or whatnot? But yeah, it's that's my crew.
I love that. I hear a lot of like, I hear this through line of the power of a crew is there's this reciprocity, like this teaching
Mhm.
and learning together. And then I heard threads of like mutual aid, like being able
Mhm.
to support one another and like shared carrying of the load. So like I don't have to worry about all the things. I worry about my thing. And then I know that I have people in my crew worrying about these other things. And together we're like a powerhouse. Um,
Mhm.
what are some other things that you feel like are like the benefits of a crew? And I also heard mirroring, like I'm able to look at them and see who I am. When I look out amongst me, this shows me who I am because these are the people I've surrounded myself with. What are some of the other like benefits that you get from having a strong crew around you?
Um, I think that a concept that I've been really latched onto is I don't know if the phrase is dark hope, but it's like hope despite knowing.
Hmm.
So earlier you were talking about how it's hard to feel hopeful or joyful when everything is happening all at once and
Hmm.
it feels like there's no break. Um, and one of the benefits that I've had is having different people in my life share small wins from different areas. So whether it's my partner coming home and being like, that student finally finished her passed her chemistry exam, and so she's like slated to graduate in, 3 months. Like whether it's that as like a small like real life thing that is changing for somebody, or I know that there are like data AI centers being built all across Georgia that is disproportionately affecting poor Black and Brown communities. And there was a win recently of someone blocking a developer, like a group of organizers blocking a developer from buying the land. And so that's like a small step in a larger fight against, environmental racism. But it's like, yes, I'm learning a lot of facts that make me very sad sometimes, but there are also in that same like multitude of ways I'm learning about wins, like small wins that may not make the news, but like genuinely make a difference, whether it's pausing the development of a AI center or a student, you know, getting closer to her graduation or like a grant being submitted. Any variety of those things. So like small wins is another way that my crew keeps me afloat and striving forward. Um, Another thing is different perspectives.
Mhm.
Um, I think I personally struggle with this part of feedback sometimes where folks are like, have you considered that you're like this course of action that you're taking might not be the best one? Have you considered this other option? And at first, I felt very like, well, what's wrong with my way? Like, what's wrong with the way that I'm processing things? It feels very personal.
Mhm.
But especially when it comes to community organizing or even like programmatic work in an organization, having someone else push back and be like, have you considered this? Especially if it's recommended with care. Um, it's no longer like a personal blow, but like, oh, that's a really interesting way to look at that data, or the same amount of, parameters that we have for a workshop, but you've proposed a different route, which means one, you're comfortable telling me and pushing back on my idea. But two, that like often they've really considered all of those options. So it's like, oh, actually, that would be a better use of our time or our resources. Or that collaboration makes so much sense. We're aligned. Let's go. So different perspectives is something that is very much needed. Also, because it challenges, again, my very Virgo eldest daughter, like, I got this. Don't you worry. I'll plan everything kind of vibe.
It sounds like, John, you have a really, really strong crew around you. Like, even the way that you're talking about the insights they provide you into like these glimmers of hope
Mhm.
in a world that is constantly churning with uncertainty or like this pushback and this feedback. Like, if you had to give people advice, how do you curate a crew like that around you? Because the topics you're covering are not like, girl, I went and got my nails done yesterday, or let's go have some wine. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but there's like a level of depth to what you're sharing that is like, how do
Mhm.
I get people like that around me? How have you curated this type of crew?
It's taken a long time, and I think that fluidity is one, uh, fluidity and patience are two virtues that I am working on, but that have led to this. In that I think in a lot of like movies of like, oh, you have your crew and then you're set. And some folks have that, and that's real. There's something really beautiful about growing like and changing with the same group of people. But for me, like I moved to New Orleans like 7, 8 years ago and left like a lot of my friends and loved ones who are still in New York. And so like figuring out and changing the dynamic of how we communicate. Um, but I think that being okay with people stepping in and out of your life as they need it. Because it's not just as much as I'd like to be like, I have control over everything, you'll be here and I'll protect you or you'll support me. Um, Different folks have different things happening in their life, and some people really like run into community when they're like, I need support, I need help processing things. And some people step away when they're going through change and they need to like be by themselves as they grow and change. And so I think patience for when friend and I know my friends have a lot of patience for me when I sometimes I retreat into myself and I'm frankly not a great friend. And I think that I have friends who push back on it and say, hey, this is the second time you've canceled on hanging out. I know something's up. Like, and being fluid of being like, okay, we're not going to hang out, but like, I left your favorite bubble tea on your doorstep. I'll see you when you're ready to see me, type of deal. And I think, especially right now, especially if you have friends and loved ones who are feeling a lot of the political anxiety of the time, being dynamic in how we interact with folks and support folks needs to change. And I think um, sometimes like community is inconvenience. Like sometimes that friend doesn't message you back and it's really annoying, but like being creative in how you interact and how that dynamic changes is really important. Um, Sometimes it's that like annoying text that's like, hey, I know you don't want to see me, but I haven't heard from you in a while and we're worried. And like not being afraid to step out and be a little bit vulnerable. Um, yeah, and um, yeah, I think being fluid and being patient as people navigate change on their own, but then also as like your interpersonal relationship changes as well.
Yeah, even as you talk about it, it feels like as you've grown over the years, there's a reimagining of how to be in relationship with people and leaving space for humans to be humans and like, I don't own this person. And like they actually are going through life on their own journey, dealing with their own
Hmm.
stuff. And how can I make myself available for that and not try to control every little
Hmm.
aspect of it?
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. It also makes it like way more fun when you're like, oh, I actually don't have control of this relationship. Let's see where this goes.
Mhm.
And there are some friends where we don't talk as much anymore. And it's like the type of friend where you're like, I know that if I call this person, they've got my back. But again, that comes from months, years of like proving that you can rely on one another. And
Mhm.
I think that also for me, like that dynamic is changing as like a lot of my really good friends have children. And that dynamic changes. And some of the ways that I show up for them is like going and like wrangling the kids while she like goes to get her nails done, or she like doing her laundry and like those kinds of the ways you show up for people change based on the season that they're in, based on the season I'm in. And also like sometimes we just sit and watch movies with her kids, and that's the most interaction we'll have for like a month, but it's that builds trust of like, I've got your back, we're here. And those like small moments really do add up to like a crew that you can rely on. Again, whether it's professional or personal. Um, yeah. And for me professionally as well, if if my staff is vulnerable enough to share with me like, hey, I'm going through something personally, or it's as simple as like, hey, I've got midterms next week. I might not be available. Be like, sure, let's change your work dynamic. Like, let's change the hours that you're working this week. How can I support you? And then with transparency and a little bit of vulnerability, you're able to build like a working relationship. Um, and yeah.
So, as we continue to navigate the current climate, what would your advice be to leaders out here building crews, being supported by crews? What would you tell them?
I would say that vulnerability goes a long way. And um and that's a practiced skill. Like it's not trauma dumping on your poor intern who's trapped in a meeting with you weekly. It's not, um and sometimes admitting like, hey, um or like how do I say? It's a practiced skill. And um I think that showing a little bit of vulnerability, or even at the beginning of like a one-on-one call, like with you and an intern or you and someone who reports to you, being like, all right, 1 to 10, how are you feeling this week? Um, and it's wild how much like a small question like that of tapping into like, oh yeah, like I'm so sorry to hear that like your dog had to go to the vet. How is he doing? Like small moments like that where in work it feels like, oh, this person maybe like sometimes it doesn't feel like I don't want to be best friends with this person, and that's okay. But checking in a little bit really helps people feel grounded of like, okay, if I need something, this person at least knows a little bit of what's going on in my life or has a little bit of context. Um, so I think that like professionally, I think building in a little bit of like humanness into professional interactions is really helpful. Um, And then I think personally in like social settings of like in your community, when you're, when you're going to the coffee shop, when you're doing all of those things, I think this actually the same advice holds of like, I love my local coffee shops. And it's, all of these outside spaces where like I love Haley, my barista, and I say, "Hey, how are you doing?" Like, she had a possum that she rescued a couple of months ago. Yes, she's an amazing person. But yeah, I like checked in with her and she shared photos with me. And then when I see her at the food co-op that's like a couple blocks away, I'm like, "Hey, how are you?" And like, it just helps me feel more seen in the spaces that I'm in. And that's like what roots us anyway. It makes us feel like we're at home, or even if this is like like a layover city, even if you're only in a place for a couple months or a year, um, it helps us feel more like a person that's involved with the people around us. And so your crew, like I would consider Haley and the folks at shout out to Honey's, my favorite coffee shop. Like they're part of my crew. They whenever I go there, I feel supported by them. They know my order, and that makes me feel really special. And so I think that leadership in those ways, we're practicing being connected to other people, inside and outside of professional spaces.
Mm, yeah, it is putting the humanity back and being human. It's like seeing people, like taking the
Hmm.
time to actually see someone, even if
Hmm.
just for a moment.
Hmm.
So for you, John, when it's all said and done and the curtain closes, what do you want your crew to say about you?
Oh, um, I have a quote that I will grab from my bathroom mirror real quick.
Okay.
I have this written on a couple of post-its around my house, but it says, "Have an incredible life, indulging in love and connection. Mourn wildly when it's over. At least there was a means to that end."
Mm,
And I think that that's basically it. I hope that I feel loved and supported throughout my life, and connected to people. And I hope that other people would say that about me, that they felt welcome and cared for, um, when they were connected to me or when they talked to me. I think that it takes a little bit of delusion to be like, we've got this. Like, we are all like, I think that there is so much happening that it's very easy to feel exhausted and feel like I don't have the capacity for another, caring relationship. And sometimes that's true. Like sometimes you have to step back, especially if you're in the practice of overflowing and taking too much care of other folks or taking on other people's burdens. Um, but I think that I don't know how else to say it, but there's no other choice. Like we're here. Um, there are lots of frankly terrifying changes that are happening. And history has shown us time and time again that the way through hardship is by being connected to other people, being connected to people who see us and are like, yeah, you weirdo, I got your back. Like, I know your coffee order, or hey, I'm so sorry that this is happening. Like, take the day off. Like, what do you need me to take off your plate? Type of deal. And so yeah, I hope that my life and my professional and personal life is one that's being a little delusional and indulging in love and connection. Um, because why not? We're here anyway. We might as well, might as well enjoy ourselves.
I agree, John. I think that helps us to remember that while everything we see around us looks really ugly, it's not so ugly after all. Like these little
Mhm,
connections during the day remind us of how beautiful life really is and how
mhm.
beautiful people really are and how much like love there is. And like the fact that you knew she rescued a possum and she knows your coffee order.
Yes. Hmm.
Thank you so much for your time today and your wisdom. I know that this is going to bless a lot of people. They're going to learn a lot about what it means to like intentionally build a crew that sees you because we all need that in our lives. And thank you, leaders, for tuning in. I'm Dr. Tracey Samone, Queen of Clarity and Care, your go-to strategist, facilitator, and coach. Help me get unstuck and get things done. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Bye. Thank you for joining us for Real Talk with Real Leaders, Inspiration for Radical Freedom Dreamers. This space is here to remind you that your story, your vision, and your leadership are part of reimagining what's possible. If you're a leader ready to share your voice, scan the QR code on the screen to apply to be featured. Together, we're fueling radical freedom dreamers, leaders daring to chart new courses for our communities and our world. Until next time, keep anchoring, keep leading, and keep dreaming toward freedom.